Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Dr. Annette, and I am back for another session with our book study. We are focusing on the book Heart, and today we're going to look at part 4, and we're going to address chapters 24 and 25 in our Heart discussion. So, thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have your book and your journal and you are ready to go. Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to read the material before. And so today we are actually able to kind of do highlights and then engage in some discussion later. So come on in and welcome to our next session. Here we go with our slides for today. Here is the title of the book, which we know, and also happiness. Hopefully you're seeing the 5 components that they actually all work together, and we're focusing on the one specifically about risk. And then we're looking at that part 4, and just to recap, that essential question, our focus question on this part of the book: are you a person of vision, focused risk taking for sustainable change with a growth and data driven mindset for learning and life? All right, my friends. Again, part 4, we're going to be looking at the role that risk and risk taking play in our pursuit of a fully formed and reflective professional life, a life that results in meaningful and sustainable change that demonstrates and impacts student learning. And my friends, that is our goal, is to have a positive impact on student learning. So as we get started, we're going to look at chapter 24, page 167 in your book, and we are addressing results or persons. So what is it that you focus on as an educational system? Stretch goals need to be high enough to inspire extraordinary effort, but can't appear so unreasonable or unattainable as to discourage people from reaching them. Good stretch goals move people's focus from a determination to be as good as we have to be and ask instead, how good can we be? And that is by Noel Tichy. So the author says it's funny. In preparing to write this chapter, I had to go back to my 2005 calendar. The quickest way to do that was to take my iCalendar, go to the year, and within seconds, I was able to scroll back more than a decade. And there it was, just like that, Thursday, August 18th, 2005. 11 plus years backward in 8 seconds. It felt strange to watch the blur of years scroll by so quickly, realizing that every one of those school seasons was a labor of love, sweat, tears, arguments, hard work, really hard work, risk taking, and growth, and that they were over, right? When we think about those years in the past, what is it that we can pull from those years that are going to impact us? They can be very challenging, all right? But what's the best part about it is reflecting upon that and pulling out the golden nuggets and using that to move us forward. The author says, I couldn't get them back. Although they seemed like yesterday, close enough to touch, I could see all of my activity right there on the calendar. Yet the years also seemed far away, distant memories. Does that make sense to you? Are your school seasons deep in the rearview mirror while at the same time unfolding one day, one week, or one hard challenging moment at a time? All at once, those calendars represent what will be and what is becoming the heartprint of your life. Again, you are building your career as you live it. The author continues to state something that happened back on August 18th, 2005, which was the opening day of the school year. And he reflected upon a comment that a staff member had made about focusing on the results and the results of, every year that they focus on the results, things that they did in the past. And, why is it that they always focus on the results? So the author was like, whoa, really? And so the author had to do some reflecting upon that at that time and decided to write his colleagues a letter to start the school year. Okay. So he writes, Dear colleagues, in 1983, a group of 60 adults, parents, teachers, support staff, members, administrators, students, and board members came together to write our first vision document called A Portrait of Excellence. The author goes and continues to tell about what that is and about the importance of heading north, using a compass as a metaphor. Okay, So the author continues to talk about all the things that they have done, some of the results that they've had, some of the challenges that they've had, and how they work to overcome those challenges and the celebrations, right? So the author says 9 years later, our students, he talks about their growth. They slowly climbed from an ACT score of 22 to the composite score of 23, and again continue to grow to a 24 to a 25, and actually that when at this time of his writing it was 25 and 1/10. So the author was, like they were setting goals, they were moving those goals, because every time they set a goal they would reach and set up another goal, right? So the author said, so what is next? What barrier will we shatter by 2015, 25? I don't know for sure, but I do know we will break through the future barriers others thought impossible, for that is the Stevenson way. And as also is the Stevenson way, we now have set a new goal for our school, right? The 26th for the ACT. I do not know when and if we will succeed in obtaining this stretch goal, but I suspect that when it does happen, it will be because of the extreme effort made by so many people here today and our students and parents, and by all of the persons involved in this educational enterprise. If you are new to our school faculty, he welcomes them to the team. In the meantime, he invites them to have a year of unlimited possibility. Now, my friends, this letter that the author wrote to his colleagues at this time, because he was a superintendent of the school, and it was smaller schools in Chicago there, but he wanted to address that question. He was thinking about that, the thought that someone had thought that he is only focused on the results and not the people. And so after this, in this writing, he says, so what do you think? Was my message to our faculty on the stage that day about results or about the value of the persons in our school organization? And when you read the entire letter in its entirety, it is definitely a focus on the persons first and then the results second, right? But as a result of the common thread that they have, right, their vision, their goals that they set as a team, and what happened as a result of that resulted in achievement, and that had an increase in their growth. So the author asks us, do you have goals, right? So he tells us stretch goals need to be high enough to inspire extraordinary effort, but cannot appear so unreasonable or unattainable as to discourage people from reaching them. Remember, we talked about last session about the SMART goals, right? The A, is it something that is attainable? If it's something that's not attainable, then it's not a stretch goal, because there cannot be a plan to get there, right? Now, good stretch goals move people's focus from a determination to be as good as we have to be, and ask instead, how good can we be? And that is exactly what it is that we want, okay? The author goes on to say, gives us some tips. First, do not lose sight of those stretch goals and those outcomes discussed. Never lose sight of why you take certain risks, okay? Now, during this section, the author wants us to do some reflecting. And the author asks us, what is more important, student results that reflect the quality and the risk-taking actions, or your work? Okay, or is it the educator, such as you and your colleagues, the adults responsible for taking the risk to achieve those results? So what is it that is most important? Is it the people, or is it the results? And then finally, respond to the 3 cultural values listed. Here they are. How do you honor the ideals of mutual interest, interdependence, and interlocking contributions for risk-taking and success in your school and on your team? My friends, this was, a quick chapter, but it definitely caused us to look at our risk-taking, how we can stretch and have another goal, right? We talked about what's the difference between an exemplary educator and a good educator, and how all this ties into that happiness, that engagement, building those alliances, that risk-taking, and all working together. So, my friends, this is a fabulous chapter that really gets you to be thinking about how good we can be, How good do we have to be? Remember, what is our goal in the end? All right. So, this chapter again is worth reading over another time. Take a look at the letter that the author wrote. I don't want to read it in its entirety simply because the book, this is a book study, but I'm not reading the entire book to you, right? So you should have the book and go back over that. And I want you to think, was the author focused on people or the results? Okay, think about your teaching context, your leadership context, your educational context. Are you focusing on people or on the results? Right. Think about that, and then comment. In the comment area where you are. Write your thoughts down and tell us about the focus. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next chapter. This is going to be chapter 25. And the focus in this chapter is called the risk vision dependency. All right. So the risk vision dependency, a TPOV, which stands for teachable point of view, is a cohesive set of ideas and concepts that a person is able to articulate clearly to others. The author shares, I walked into the principal's office and asked her a simple question. Does this unit exam meet your vision for 7th grade assessments in the middle school? The principal said, well, what do you mean? Does this unit exam meet your assessment teachable point of view that you are articulating to your faculty and staff? He says there was a bit of silence, and then I stated, your school could become great at sustaining change by using a focused assessment risk-taking process. Can I help? I love it when a superintendent can come into the principal's office, ask a question, right, that causes the principal to really be thinking, and then says, can I help? What a great superintendent. Okay. So the author said, what were the deeply held beliefs? So this is some questions that he wanted the principal to think about. What were the deeply held beliefs and values about assessment in her school? What exactly was she teaching her faculty? And what were the teachers teaching to the students about the assessment vision of the school? How could all the adults in the school help sustain the change needed to take risks and move towards that assessment vision? And if we ask members of her faculty, was there clarity regarding the risks needed to achieve this vision? All right. So the author goes on to continue. He also says that I asked her one more question. Is the vision, the assessment in this case, deeply rooted and clearly defined purpose of the school? Each and every child can and will learn, as we talked about last time. We discussed how teacher team actions that move the school towards a clearly defined vision are where we discover the meaningfulness of our work. So my friends, this goes back to those conversations, back to aligning the elements we've talked about so far: the happiness, engagement, alliances, and now the risk. Okay, how are these in alignment in order to really push the team, the school team, the district team forward? Is everybody on the same page? Can everybody articulate that teachable point of view? How it relates to the vision, right? Now, the vision is that compelling picture that you paint for your students or your teachers or your organization that produces energy, passion, and action in yourself and others. Everybody is on the same piece of music. We're all different instruments, but we play that same piece of music, and it is just beautiful, right? So the author goes on to say that in order to write a coherent vision for assessment, to reflect on the personal visions of the stakeholders in your school, and this can be informed by reliable sources, right? You can use the following vision activity for discovering your school or your team's teachable point of view or vision for assessment. First, describe the 2 or 3 most vital adult behaviors. Now, my friends, these are non-negotiable behaviors that you believe each member of your team should embrace. So when you identify the most vital adult behaviors as an aspect of effective assessment practices in your school, grade level, course, department, or school, right? Then the author says to draw a circle in the center of a piece of poster paper. Each person at the table writes his or her own list of vital assessments behaviors outside the school. My light just went off. Write your own list on the paper and initiate a small group discussion. Remember, do not write inside the circle, because inside the circle is where they're going to create that team vision or point of view for highly effective practices. So using all of the words that are brought together from the team, they are going to synthesize those into the one statement, okay? In 18 or fewer words, they're going to capture what they believe must become the effective assessment practices in your school. Let me see if I have the next page here. Okay, so the author also says that the question is not, nor should it ever be, who is the voice of authority in your school, but the question should be, what is the voice of authority in your school? So in order, like if you go into a classroom and you know who is the authority in your classroom, who is the authority in your school, right? It should never be, well, the teacher or the principal. It should never be that, but it's that collective authority. Okay, so that collective authority, the intrinsic motive. Why? Because the intrinsic motivation of that shared vision and the values is always more powerful than the extrinsic motivation provided by a boss type person telling us what to do in our work life. All right, telling us what to do as a classroom. So, this is why it's important as a classroom teacher that the students develop that ownership. They understand why this work is important, why these assessments are important. What am I doing? What's of value for me? How is it making me better? Then they actually see that they are better, and then that's how the student is going to move themselves forward. And honestly, that's how you also get great results, right? When the students take that ownership, you'll get excellent, amazing learning and achievement results. Same thing happens with a larger organization such as a school or a district, right? You're going to be looking at the intrinsic. Are when people know what their goals are, right? Those stretch goals, when they know what they're supposed to be doing, and they find it valuable, they can relate to it, they have a personal meaning, a connection to it, then you're going to see some really good growth. I just really love this book, and I hope that as a professional, perhaps take this book and recommend it to your colleagues, maybe your principal, to do it as a staff book read. Perhaps maybe as a school, if you're a principal or a leader of another organization, that you'd want to do this book. You know, I hope you found it's very valuable. Every time I read this, I keep thinking, wow, I really need to introduce this to some other people, some other leaders, so that they can take this book, this information, do a book club in their organization, and just think about the impact that this could really have on others and on that organization and the people that are associated with it. My friends, we've really covered a lot of stuff today, just some golden nuggets, right? That risk vision dependency, talking about, how that risk needs to be aligned to that vision. They go back and forth, right? And then those stretch goals. How are you going to make that stretch goal? We talked about measuring goals before. What is a goal? Now we want to have those stretch goals, and that's going to make us the difference between a good teacher and an exemplary teacher. So, my friends, I hope that you are finding some great value in this, and that you can see how all of this is working together cohesively, is really supporting the work that you do wherever you are in the field of education. And if you're a classroom teacher, to be that blue ribbon teacher, right? Because you know that you have everything that you need to do that. You just need to do some tweaking, right? Maybe you want to be a blue ribbon leader of a school or of a district, and there are just some things that need to be tweaked in order for you to really move that organization forward. All right, my friends, that's all I have for today. I look forward to coming back with you again as we work on the last couple sections of our book. And I hope that you're enjoying this just as much as I am. Have a blessed day, my friends. Until later, see you then. Bye.